Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm the curator here at the Flint RiverQuarium. And right now I'm standing in front of our Gulf of Mexico exhibit here in the Flint River Gallery. This exhibit houses some of the fish that you'll actually find in the Gulf of Mexico. Um, we change out fish every once in a while as they get bigger, need to be rehomed either from another exhibit or uh, to another exhibit from this one. So some of the fish you'll see swimming behind me, we have an Atlantic spadefish, Spanish hogfish, our little reef butterfly here, um, and there are some others that are currently hiding, but um, you may think to yourself sometimes when you're at an aquarium or somewhere, um, what's it like behind the scenes? What goes into actually maintaining a tank that's this kind of size? You might be familiar with, home aquariums and what goes into keeping those, but you may have never seen what's actually behind the scenes of a tank like this. So I'm actually going to take y'all behind the scenes and show y'all the life support systems and what we actually have here that keeps our animal collection alive and well. So if you'll follow me, we'll go back there. All right, so here we are behind our Gulf of Mexico exhibit. It's actually this big tank that's right here to my right. And what you'll notice here is this big chamber of water. Now this is actually what we call a sump, and this holds a little bit of extra water so that we don't have to worry about our main exhibit water evaporating and getting too low. So this is kind of a constant water supply for that exhibit. Another thing that sumps are used for is actually to run our filtration. So instead of having the water that comes straight from the exhibit go to our filters and other things that we use to actually clean the water, we'll have it come to the sump first, and then a separate line will actually take that to the filtration. So in addition to our sump, we have our plumbing, and for our Gulf of Mexico exhibit, all of our water actually gets sent through this skid right here, which contains this piece down here, which is our heat exchanger. So because animals that live in the Gulf of Mexico kind of like that temperature range of water, we actually have to keep their water temperature controlled. So that's one of the things we have here is a heat exchanger to cool down that water whenever we need it. In addition to that, we also have this big drum back here, which is actually our sand filter. If you have a pool at home, you may be familiar with these because they're the same things a lot of people have with their home pools. And what that is just a bed of sand that the water flows through, and where that sand sits on top, it will actually collect all of the dirt and debris and things like that that can get into the water. So that just helps us keep the water clean. In addition to that, with this tank, we also have a degas chamber, and this is a big chamber that will actually just let the water off gas anything that's might be contained in the water as gases that are building up that we don't want to get to too high of a level. And also, you may be wondering, we're here in Albany, Georgia, so we're kind of far from the ocean. So how do we actually bring the water to our tanks so we can have saltwater tanks? Well, that's actually where this chamber comes in. We make all of our own imitation seawater, basically, and this 800-gallon tank is where we'll actually make a big batch of salt water to be able to use to refill the Gulf of Mexico tank and some of our other smaller saltwater tanks. We also have brackish water tanks that have a little bit of salt water, but not quite as much. All right, and our last piece here, this tall chamber right here, this is actually a protein fractionator. A lot of people call them a protein skimmer. But the way this works to help clean our water is if you've ever been to the beach and you see a lot of foam or froth where the waves have been washing up against the shore, this is basically the same principle. When you have all that dissolved solids, proteins, things like that to get in the water from fish waste, leftover food, things like that. You want to clean that out. So what this chamber does is it actually mixes a lot of oxygen with the water and forms these bubbles. And the dirtier the water is, the heavier and thicker the bubbles will get. And those will actually push their way up through this cone up top until it falls out of the cup and then just drains away. So that's another way that we keep this water clean. So I'm glad y'all got to come back and kind of see what it is that actually goes into keeping tanks like this nice and clean for whenever you're coming through viewing the aquarium. And I hope we get to see y'all soon. I hope y'all get to see this exhibit in person.